Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Ismail Bilal Salim, coming to you live from Masjid William Salam. I'm a student of comparative religion. I am a speaker, a helper with Black Dawah Network. And every Sunday I try to give a tidbit, give something that I can contribute. Hopefully it helps or give some aid to others in some understanding. Next week I won't be doing this. We have something else going on in the masjid. So, the topic today was on stars. So I don't plan on talking about Bill Cosby or the track runner. People talked about it enough. They are, to some people, stars, Well, they're celebrities, they're on television. But they're not stars that I'm concerned with at the moment or currently. I'll let you all figure that out. That's something that's not concerning me currently. This rapper, Big Crit, said, I never seen a star on a red rug. If I want to see a star, I just look above. So I don't look at, famous people as, something above me. People have their own faults, whether you're famous or not. And I also didn't want to talk about the stars and stripes. Today is the 4th of July, what people celebrate as Independence Day, but we, African Americans, weren't independent. We are not independent currently. We are striving towards independence. Our Independence Day or our Freedom Day was June 19th. But do we actually have freedom? So I didn't want to talk about those stars either. I'm only satisfied when I talk about the people who are really stars, and I think that is all of us, all in total. I want you to see you for who you really are. You are a star. All right, and more than a star. That's who I'm interested in, the people, right? So on June 14th, 1990, there was a picture of the planet Earth. It was taken from outer space. It was a space probe that took a picture that was 3.7 billion miles away from this space probe. And in the photograph, it had a picture of the Earth, and the Earth was as small as a pixel. It appeared as a tiny dot against the vast space and the vast, the reflection from the camera. Let me see if I have a picture for. I'm gonna just spin my camera around so you can see what this looks like. If you can see that, just for a moment, that little dot right there is the planet Earth. All right. So a man named Carl Sagan wrote a book entitled Pale Blue Dot, and he was referencing this photograph and saying the Earth was, as small as a pale blue dot. Now, Carl Sagan is an astronomer. He's a planetary scientist. He's a cosmologist, not a cosmetologist, an astrophysicist, and an astrobiologist, and an author. This man is a genius. And this is what he had to say in his book about the pale blue dot. He said, look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it is everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of. Every human being who lived their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering. Thousands of confident religions. Now I want to emphasize this because I feel like this is what the point that he's trying to make here. Thousands of confident religions, ideologies, economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor, or explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar. That's what we're talking about here. Every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived here on this mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam, is what he writes. The earth is a very small stage on a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilt for all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they can become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. So if the dot in the universe is the earth, just imagine the people on the universe, how small they are. Think of the endless cruelty and visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel, on this scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. And this is where he goes a little bit further. He says, our posturing, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that you have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by this pale light, is what he's saying. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all of this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. And this is the last part of the quote I wanted to show you. It says, it has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceit than his distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another, to preserve and cherish this pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known. Now again, this is Carl Sagan in his book entitled Pale Blue Dot. Now I commend him for saying the image that he sees gives him the idea that we should preserve our lives. We should treat each other kindly. But the first point I want to emphasize for the moment is this brilliant man, this intelligent man who's an astrophysicist, an astrobiologist, a planetary scientist, a cosmologist. So he's an intelligent person, right? But he does say something that I think is unintelligent. He is saying, since we have self-imagined importance and the delusion of privileged position, we should treat each other better. How you doing, Mama? Hey, I'm coming to see you tomorrow too, Mom. All of us gonna be coming. The delusion of privileged position is why we should treat each other better. And this self-image or this self-important image that we have imagined. But do you see the folly in his words? If he's saying that we are deluded in our own importance of this world, and we are given fake privilege, deluded people don't treat other people better. Unimportant people don't treat other people better. If we accept that we are insignificant and we are accidents and our lives and our actions have no true value or meaning, then why would we be nice to one another? Why would we help other people? Why not be cruel and ruthless and selfish if we are insignificant? You see, the antithesis to cruelty and barbarism, theft and murder is righteousness. Doing what is right requires that you know what is right. It requires discerning between right and wrong and seeing humanity as important enough to preserve and to foster. The only way you know this, the only way you do this is knowing that you have some significance, some value. Your life has value. If your life and our life and everyone who has ever lived, life has no value, then what's the purpose of life? What's the purpose of doing right, of being nice? Why don't we, for this small speck in time, just be evil and get all the selfish things that we want, since this life has no value? You see, scientists can describe something for you, but they can't give you its meaning. They can present all the facts to you and be totally oblivious to the meaning or to the implication of those facts. I watched a talk between Lawrence Krauss and Noam Chomsky, both brilliant men, discussing that we as human beings are programmed. We are programmed for language and for learning. Noam Chomsky says we are programmed for language, learning, for morality, and the expression or the experience of beauty. Yet both of them are unsure whether we have a programmer. Do you understand what I'm saying? They're acknowledging that we are programmed, but these scientists, these brilliant men, can't tell you whether there is a programmer. You see what I'm saying here? They are like a dog, and I don't mean this in a bad sense. I think both of them are intelligent people. When you point towards his food, the dog is fixated on your finger, not on the food. They too are fixated on the process and not on the process of how this universe was created, but not the meaning behind this universe and why it exists. This is why they can see a picture and say, this has no meaning. We are insignificant. We are delusions. We have delusions of grandeur, is what they are ultimately saying. Allah says in the Quran, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Am kuliku min ghayri shay'in aw uhul qalikum. It means, or were they created by nothing? Or were they their own creators? You see, Allah is asking these rhetorical questions. Were you created by nothing, or did you create yourself? Both of these are absurdities. They are rhetorical questions that answer themselves. Allah goes further. Am khalaku samawati wal ardi. Or did they create the heavens and the earth? You see, oftentimes I look into the mirror and I think to myself, I exist. I am here. Why am I here? And then I remember why Allah has put me here. Does every single person who is on this video or who will see this, some point in your life, look in the mirror and ask yourself, why are you here? Why is this universe here? You see, these people take a picture from 14 billion miles away and say we are insignificant. Therefore, the people on this earth are insignificant. But let us remember, one of the names of Allah is Al-Fatir, meaning the originator, meaning he created you from nothing. You were no things, and then he created you from it. All right? Bill Bryson, in his book, A Short History of Nearly Everything, says, and so from nothing our universe begins. Let me pause for a moment here. From nothing. You understand that? No time, no space, no air, no water, nothing existed, and then everything came into existence. There was complete nothingness, no time, no space, and from nothing, the components of the universe came into existence. Allah says in the Quran, أَوَلَمْ يَحْرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ. Someone is calling me. Connection has been restored. Okay, somebody called me right in the middle of this. أَوَلَمْ يَحْرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ samawati wal ardi kanata rabka fafataqnahuma. Do the disbelievers not realize that the heaven and earth was once one mass, and then we split them apart? Listen to me. Allah says the disbelievers don't realize that the heavens and earth, the skies, the universe, and everything in it was one mass, and then Allah split it. At that point in time, the Big Bang, all the matter in the universe was smushed together into an extremely hot and dense speck of matter. To understand the Big Bang, let us think about rewinding time. You know, the universe is expanding, right? So it's getting larger and larger by the moment. So if we think back in time, then it will contract, and it's getting smaller and smaller until it gets into a singularity, is what the scientists call this. Now, first, let us realize that it was a singularity, and scientists finding out in recent time, that it was a singularity. When Allah says this 1400 years ago, that there was one mass and then it was split, right? I wonder how Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam knew this. Was he just guessing? He kept getting the right answers because he didn't have a telescope. He wasn't an astrophysicist, an astroscientist, a planetary scientist. He said Allah gave him this information. And then the Quran says this. وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدِي وَإِنَّا مُوسِعُونَ. We built the universe with might, and we are certainly expanding it. The universe is expanding. I'm asking you again, how it's something Prophet Muhammad knew 1400 years ago when they just found out the answer to. So since the universe is expanding, as you go back in time, the universe contracts. And if we rewind far enough to 13.8 billion years, you see that the universe shrinks into what is smaller than a single atom. So this subatomic ball of everything, like I said, is called a singularity, what Allah describes as one mass. Inside this extremely small and dense ball is heat and energy. The laws of physics and time and space do not function here. So put those away. Time, as we understand it, did not exist before the universe began to expand. Once again, people send me messages. So Allah says he split the mass apart. And he uses the word split. We use as an explosion to describe what was done. We call it a big bang. And the universe began to expand, and galaxies began to form. I don't know if you know this, so I just learned this. I didn't know the difference between galaxies and the universe. So there are over 200 billion galaxies. Right? NASA just put out this message earlier this year saying there's 200 billion galaxies in this universe. Now, a galaxy is a system of stars and interstellar gases and dust and dark matter that is composed together. Whenever you see that kind of a swirl, like our solar system is a galaxy. We live in what is called the Milky Way. So it's 200 billion of those in this universe, in this vast universe, right? And these galaxies can be small. They can be called dwarfs. A dwarf. So in a dwarf galaxy, there's still 100 billion stars in it, over 100 billion stars in it, right? And then it can have giant galaxies, and they can have 100 trillion stars in them. Now, stars, we all know what stars are. They're the most recognizable thing that's in outer space that we can see with our own eyes. And stars are the building block, the foundation of galaxies. So in each galaxy is a billion, literally billions of stars, right? So after this Big Bang, there was hydrogen and helium, and they were combining together and spinning and causing all kinds of friction. And when they were doing this, other forms of matter composed around them, and all this friction and heat, it fused together and it's called what we call stars. So it started from helium and hydrogen. And then it just started mixing everything together, started getting really hot, and then it forms into a ball of what we call a star. Like the sun that we see every day is a huge star. It came from this as well, after this Big Bang. Now, stars are responsible for manufacturing and distributing. This is very important. Distributing, sending out heavy elements such as carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. So stars over billions of years they change the hydrogen and helium into oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen. The reason I say these things, they are very important because they are the elements necessary for life. You know what necessary means? It means they are required. Without them, you have no life. So these stars are building life elements inside of them over billions of years. Hold on one second. I don't know why people keep sending me messages. What is the problem? Yeah, 4th of July. Yeah. Okay. So at the end of the star's billion years of life, the heat and gravity in it causes the star to implode or explode. And the elements of the stars are spread all over the outer space. Do you all know this? Do y'all know that stars implode and explode and all of the elements from it go into outer space? Well, Prophet Muhammad, 1400 years ago, knew this. He says, "Wa najmi idha hawa." It means, and by the stars, when they tumbled down, descending. The word used means tumble down. It means descending. It means to fall as steep as a bird catching its prey. That's how the stars explode and fall down to the earth or to the outer space and to the planetary or to anything that's in the atmosphere. It can become an asteroid. It becomes a planet. It becomes the elements that's on the earth, right? So these stars exploded and imploded, and they spread elements all across the universe. Now, as I said, in each galaxy, there's at least 100 billion stars. So that's what's happening here. So they explode all over the universe, and they make up the elements of our body. What's up, man? It's every element in your body is forged in the center of a star. You know that? So we are what scientists call stardust. Me talking to you right now, I am stardust put together, talking to you, laughing, crying, building bridges, writing books, running races, going to work, on Facebook, creating all kinds of things. Stardust is what is creating these things. Stardust went to the moon, built a shuttle and went to the moon. So back to this pale blue dot. You see, those who don't believe in God, those who have a adverse understanding, those who are in disbelief about a creator of this universe, they see the picture of Earth from outer space and they look at it as a speck of dust or as a pale light, and they say, we must be insignificant. We must be an accident because of our size. You know, the size of this earth and the size of us on this earth. But is it an accident that a speck smaller than the earth can affect the earth? Is it an accident that a speck smaller than the dust from this picture can affect the bodies in the solar system and possibly the galaxy itself and maybe even further to the universe? What starts off as a microscopic sperm goes into an egg, evolves into a human being, and that human being has the capacity to make astronomical changes, whether good or bad. How can a scientist account for that? Is that an accident? Is that a mistake? Is that a coincidence? In the Bible and in the Quran, God is saying that he has made human beings as vice regents, as caretakers, as leaders, as sustainers of this earth that we are on. Why would you believe differently when we have the capacity, the ability to do it? We are the only being on earth that can affect positive change on purpose. We can decide to. You know, animals can eat from the ground, and they can have an ecosystem, or they can, the ecosystem in which their waste helps facilitate growth, right? But they're not doing that on purpose. They're doing it off of instinct. We can decide to do it, or we can decide not to do it. Is that a coincidence? But in a universe so old, 14 billion years old, and so vast and so dark, I don't know if you know this, but the universe is mostly composed of dark matter. Matter is what you see and touch and taste and feel. Dark matter is something that you can't see, touch, taste, or feel. It's the space that you see, the blackness, right? So the universe is old, vast, and dark. So how can we think that we matter? The universe's size and age makes it seem like we're insignificant to those who don't believe in God. But if the universe was not this way, if it didn't have all this space and all these galaxies and all these stars, then we would not exist. It is designed. The universe is designed. It is fine-tuned. It is made for us to be here, for me to talk to you right now. The universe was designed in this manner for us, for all of us. It takes a star 10 billion years to create the elements necessary for life building inside of a star, right? The universe is only 14 billion years old. 10 billion years of that time was helping build the foundation of life. But the universe is so vast, and it's expanding so fast that the universe's size, it cools down the stars that are exploding and imploding. But had the universe, had the Big Bang explosion, had any difference in its strength, we would not exist today. The explosion, the magnitude of its explosion, they say only 1 part in 10 to the 60th power. That's 10 with 60 zeros behind it. If any of that fraction of that was off, we wouldn't exist today. So again, this universe, everything in it is fine-tuned for life, for our lives. Scientists call it the Goldilocks effect, because everything is just right. You know how Goldilocks said the partridge was just right and the bed was just right? Well, everything in this universe is just right for our existence. The sun is just far enough for us to sustain life and not to burn us to death. If it was any closer, we would all burn to death. If it was any further, we would all freeze to death and not live. It is in the precise place it is supposed to be. That's what they call the Goldilocks theory. So, even if we are the only life form on Earth or in the universe, the entire universe would need to exist in the way that it exists for us to live. Not just our galaxy, though, but all of the galaxies and all of its 100 billion stars had to explode and implode for us to exist. So there are at least 100 billion galaxies, right? If there's 100 billion galaxies and all of them have 100 billion stars, they all had to exist. They all had to come into existence for each one of us to exist. That means every man, every woman, every child on Earth is represented by 20 galaxies and 2,000 billion stars. That's 1 trillion stars exploded and imploded for each of us, for you, for me to exist. So when I say you a star, you more than a star, right? The professor, Sir James Jean, wrote, "From the intrinsic evidence of this creation, the great architect," is what he's calling God, "of this universe now begins to look like a pure mathematician." He says he's a mathematician because he imploded and exploded hundreds of billions of stars in order for each person to exist. But we know that God is more than a mathematician, more than just an architect. You see, an architect would have, like the deists say that God, there is a God. He created this world. But he's not saying he's a theist, that God is interacting with us inside of this world. But we know that we are more than just an accident. How absurd, a preposterous an idea that we are created and God took 14 billion years to make us, yet we are insignificant. In the Quran, Allah says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. Indeed, we created humans in the best mold, in the best form, in the best shape. When we look into the stars and we are astounded by stars, realize that you are a walking, talking star. That's what God made you from. Remember, Allah He created you from nothing, and then He made it into something, and from that something He made your human body. That's why He is the best of fashioners. That's how He created you in the best of molds. You are a star. You are this universe. 14 billion years is how much time it took Allah to create you. Allah created each and every one of us from stars. We are stars. That's the care that our Creator took to make us. Tell me that isn't love. Tell me that isn't value. Remember I told you Carl Sagan said that we are insignificant. That we are putting our own value into this. We're making value up. That we have no self-importance. We have no privilege. When we create, we are the universe knowing itself. We are the consciousness from which this universe came. Yes, Ma, you are a star. The human body is composed of 65% oxygen, 18.5% carbon, 9.5% hydrogen, 3.3% nitrogen, 1.5% calcium, phosphorus, sulfurous, etc. These are all elements found on the periodic table in chemistry, and they are all elements from stars. A precise scientific mixture of elements put together make us what we are. But it doesn't make us who we are. That's why I said you are the stars and more. Just your body is the star. But these elements put together doesn't make you live. So you're more than a star. I don't think personally, the reason I said this, the reason I wanted to put this together, because I don't think people grasp the impressive magnitude, the magnificence of their own creation, of their own selves. The fact is that we are walking, talking miracles. You can gather all of these elements together, all the elements of human beings, and you still can't make them. You can gather 16.5% oxygen, 18.5% carbon, 9.5% hydrogen and sulfur and calcium and all of that, and you still can't make a human being. You know why? Because life, the life force inside of you, is the miracle from your Creator. So you are even more than blood and bones, more than stardust, more than elements. You have a driving force within you that I can talk about for another hour that moves that blood and bones. That driving force is unexplainable by science. You have a consciousness, and this consciousness is unexplained by science. Human beings not only have a consciousness, we have self-consciousness. what is called metacognition. We can think, and we think about our thinking, and we think about other people's thinking. So don't allow someone to degrade you or downgrade you to simply an effect of exploding stars, or a picture from far of a small pale dot. And also don't let them characterize you as just simply an animal. You are far more than that. So, the rapper, we're talking about rappers and stuff, right? This rapper Mos Def, he has this intro to this album, I think it's called Black on Both Sides. And someone asked him, when is hip hop going to get better? And he said, hip hop will get better when the people get better. And the people get better when they realize that they are valuable. And they are not valuable because somebody says you're cute, or because you have a lot of money, or because you have a car, but you are valuable because you are created by God, and God makes you valuable. Allah says in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَرَمْنَا, indeed, وَلَقَدْ كَرَمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, indeed we have dignified the children of Adam. Allah has honored you. He has dignified you. He has raised you to esteem, raised you to somebody. He said he has privileged them, human beings, far above many of his other creations. Allah says in the Quran, لَقَلَقَ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ قَدْ أَكْبَرُوا مِنْ قَلِقِ نَاسِ وَلَكِنَا أَكْتَرَ نَاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. The creations of the heavens and earth, meaning space, the universe, is certainly greater than the creation of the human being. But most people do not know. You know why the creation of the universe is better or greater than the creation of the human being? It's because the universe is what the human being is created from. There was a big bang, and these stars exploded and made up your human body. And then God blew the breath of life into that human body. Allah says that He is Allah, your Lord, the creator of all things. Don't worship anything, anyone but Him. And then it says, how are you deluded from the truth? How could you not know the truth? How could you not know the truth when you were nothing and then God created you? When the universe was nothing and God created you? Allah says it is Allah who has made the earth as a place of settlement for you, and the sky a canopy. He shaped you in your womb and perfected your form. Allah says, it says, Hu Allahu khaliqu bariyu musawir. He is the one, He is Allah. He created you. He shaped you. He molded you in your mother's womb. And He provided you with what was good and lawful. That is Allah, your Lord. So blessed is Allah, Lord of all the worlds. And finally, it says, He is the one who created you from dust, then from a drop of semen, then from a clinging clot. Then He brings you forth as an infant, so that you may rise to your prime and become old, though some of you may die sooner, reaching an appointed time, so that you may understand, so you may learn the wisdom of what Allah is creating. So into the infamous words of Jesse Jackson, I am somebody. You are somebody. You are a star that is walking and talking. You have the capacity to change things, to change yourself, to change your environment, to change your circumstances. Right now, you could have an idea that you can form into an idea that changes everything, everyone around you. You see, this star is an inanimate object. It can't think, it can't talk. It created the object that can create, think, and talk. That is you. You have the capacity to change things, to build something that can change everything and everyone around you. Everyone, every person that you see was fashioned by God. They are 100 billion stars exploded. From the lowliest person to the person that we hold in high esteem. Allah says that we are different based on our piety, based on our righteousness, on what we do right, how we are sovereign over this land and over people, and how we treat other people. So let us treat each other kindly. Peace. Assalamu alaikum.